Hey, I've been told I couldn't do for my entire life.
My whole life, the first thing that people see when they look at me is he's got one hand. So he's handicapped. He's disabled. He can't do that.
I don't care if he has a stump or a hand. You can't treat people like this. You have to think about human beings and the way that people feel.
If you even try telling Jordan he is wrong, when he believes 100% that he is right, he will fight you till the end of time.
You're rude.
I just don't know what's up with Jordan's attitude all the time. You do not run this house. Nobody made you boss.
Jordan. He's just a dick. He's just a smug, arrogant prick. Like, work on yourself and stop worrying about us.
You say,
That's not my problem at all.
why do you feel the need to work out all the time, to do all this stuff? Because you will always have something on me. What is that? You got one hand. So I have to extrally prove myself.
Trying to prove something that you don't need to prove. You do better with one hand than most people would do with two hands, but you don't need to constantly be reminding us of it.
Jordan, just in general, is just like a disgusting creature.
Jordan, he's a great competitor, but like, you know what? He just doesn't know how to shut the fuck. Shut up.
What do we like about Jordan? Nothing!
I'm a hard person to live with. I'm a hard person to like.
It's really hard.
If I had to hang out with myself, I'd kick my own ass. Like, I don't like who I am.
Welcome back to my channel and my 8th video on the challenge, a series where I basically pick a player, binge watch every season they've appeared on, as I formulate my thoughts and feelings into a Word document that eventually becomes this video you're watching now. A process which takes a long time to complete. And while I try my best to dig as deep as I can for all the information I present in these deep dives, I often end up getting things wrong, especially since I'm a new viewer to the series and this is a one-woman show. So before we dive into Jordan's season on the real world and his multiple appearances on the challenge, a few housekeeping things. Look you guys, these videos are based on my opinions and whatever research I managed to do. So yeah, they're gonna be somewhat biased and probably missing a few key moments. And I honestly welcome anyone who leaves comments pointing out things I missed, because hey, I wanna know what I missed too. Moreover, I feel like it's important to point out, as you probably noticed by now, I have my favorites, just like you have yours. And while I try my hardest to be neutral and completely fair, I don't think I get it right all the time. That's why some of my thumbnails look like this, or this, and this. And I'll be honest, Jordan has been one of my favorites for a long time. I started watching the show with season 30, which is, I mean, to be real, it was a great season for him. Was he and still is sometimes obnoxious, combative, and annoying? Yes, he is. He's unapologetically all of those things and more, especially during his earlier appearances. But I honestly can't help it. I have and probably will always have a soft spot for him. That being said, you definitely don't have to. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments down below. Part 1. Before the challenge. Jordan Wiseley was born September 15, 1990 in Mustang, Oklahoma. He was born with a rare congenital hand difference known as symbrachydactyly, which presents clinically as short joint fingers. For Jordan, this affected his left hand, which resulted into him missing 4 fingers on the affected hand. Symbrachydactyly is relatively rare, only affecting 1 in 32,000 babies born each year.
And the delivery room and the doctor, you're just waiting for the doctor to say, everything's okay.
Yeah.
And he goes, and the doctor turned and he said, everything's okay, but he's missing his left hand. And my dad said, you know, he went in while they were cleaning my mom up. He went into the next room, the next OR. Nope. It was an empty room. And he said he just laid down on the bed and just thought for a moment, because in his mind, the whole time during pregnancy, he's like, oh, my son, he's going to come out. We're going to be playing sports. We're going to do all this stuff. And then in that split second, you're like, oh, he doesn't have a thing that you need to do that. So he automatically was like, well, we're not going to be able to do these things. He sat up and after about 10 minutes and he goes, no, we're raising him the exact same way.
And while I was reading about it, I found a quote in the Boston Children's Hospital from a 12-year-old gymnast named Ashley born with this condition. Quote, "People ask me if it's harder to do certain things, and I always tell them, I don't know, this is all I've ever had," unquote. And Jordan would express similar thoughts when speaking about his life during his first reality television appearance back in 2013.
It's like I've already learned how to do everything the way I do it now. So why relearn how to do it? Like I would have no idea what to do with 4.5 extra fingers. Like they'd just be like extra. I'm like, what the are these? Most pictures that I'm in, I always have the people that I'm with on my left side. So they can hide. But I always have my hand in my pocket. It's a self-conscious thing. I hate the way this thing looks. It's gross. If I were to have surgery now, I think mentally it would just, I'd feel like I gave up. And I would feel like I'd taken the easy way out. I don't know. Maybe it's me being hard on myself or just stubborn, but I will live like this for the rest of my life.
Neither he or Ashley would let this condition stop them from pursuing their dreams. Despite being handed a difficult lot in life, Jordan's childhood and teenage years were full of accomplishments. In high school, he was the captain of the football team. He also excelled in baseball, wrestling, and cheerleading. He often attributes his success and driven nature to his family, and specifically his father, who never allowed Jordan's situation to be seen as a handicap and encouraged him, sometimes aggressively, to be the best at whatever he did.
I've always been very competitive and really motivated. My father was a multi-sport, very high-level athlete.
My mom's from Panama. My dad's full-blown redneck. Full-blown redneck. He got his ass whooped by his parents, and he did his own. He does his own work. My dad's whole thing. He goes, see it once, do it once, teach it. But at the same time, it makes it hard to work with others. It makes it hard to live with others sometimes because I don't have the ability sometimes to turn that off.
I'd say my number one driving force is definitely growing up with one hand. I mean, I was made fun of a lot as a kid through like elementary and middle school. I was also kind of chubby. So, you know, it's all compounded and kids are little sometimes. So I'd come home crying and my dad would just be like, yo, you need to tell these kids crazy stories and they'll leave you alone because they'll think you're tough.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your hand?
Gator.
An alligator?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That was crazy, huh?
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
And then I kind of flipped that and used that in sports as a way to like, hey, I can't be as good as these kids. I have to be better than them. So that way they'll see me as equal. You know what I mean? Like even when you're equal, they still have something on you because they're like, well, you still got one hand. So that way they really can't say anything, right? Because if people are like, you got one hand, I'll be like, scoreboard. Do you know what I mean? That was like the term we used to say back in the day, like scoreboard if we were winning. And you'd shut them up.
Jordan often references his father's role in his life while highlighting his tough love method of parenting. And to be clear here, he never speaks about him negatively, or any of his family members for that matter. Jordan would go on to join Oklahoma State University where he studied business, followed by marketing at the University of Central Oklahoma. During that time, he also had a background in construction work, mostly while helping his father, which provided him with skills that were going to be really helpful during his future appearances on the challenge. Everything would change for Jordan in 2013 when he was cast to be part of MTV's hit reality series The Real World. This show would launch both his modeling and acting career, as well as establish him as a regular competitor in MTV's other popular series, The Challenge, where he would go on to compete for several seasons, all the while bringing important representation and inspiration to people watching at home.
Does he have the same hand? That's so cool!
Compare it again, let me see. Pull it up. Let me see if it's the same.
Whoa!
In In 2013, he would be cast to appear on Tyler Perry's production of If Loving You Is Wrong, which debuted Jordan as an actor and had an interesting way of explaining Jordan's hand situation, as his character, who is a drug addict rookie cop, would get his hand shot off in the first episode. Now I could be wrong here since I didn't actually watch the show, but yeah, that happened. Baby Jordan was an actor.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wiseley, represented by Holly Shelton Management, reading for Captain Aiden O'Connor.
But back to the show that started it all, The Real World Portland, which, as the name suggests, had some really real moments, maybe even too real. Now, I wasn't really familiar with the show, nor did I watch any of its previous seasons, so when I joined in for this one, I was pretty shocked. From ugly fights, extremely nasty and personal remarks, to even physical altercations, the show is a mess, and I'm not sure I can call it an entertaining experience, but more like an anxiety-inducing train wreck that you can't help but keep on watching, or at least that's how it felt to me. The Real World, as best as I can figure, is a reality television series where the whole concept is putting a bunch of strangers together in a house while filming them 24/7 as you sit back and watch the magic happen, or in this case, the multiple assaults. As the season begins, we see Jordan getting along with most of the other guests in the house. He's hanging out with the other guys, which was really cute to see, and he even has a little crush on one of the girls. However, as the episodes go by, we see Jordan's sometimes over-the-top attitude and straightforward personality becoming too much for the other house guests to stomach. He struggles to fit in, and at some point or another, he gets into an argument with pretty much every single person in the house.
Jordan, just in general, is just like a disgusting creature. Like, what do we like about Jordan? Nothing!
Can't stand Jordan.
It starts off when him and Marlon invite two girls back to their apartment after a night of drinking. They then kick the girls out in a very rude way, which really upsets the other girls in the house. Anna specifically has a hard time with it, which results into an argument where Anna says, quote, "I don't care if you have a stump for a hand, you can't treat people that way," unquote.
About respecting people I respect. I don't respect you.
You're a piece of...
You promise?
I'm a grave.
Oh, man.
Anyways, Marlon.
She ain't dead yet.
You're rude. I don't care if he has a stump for a hand. You can't treat people like this. You have to think about human beings and the way that people feel.
These kind of comments and low digs will be thrown at Jordan a lot during this season. And sure, he's being an immature little douche, but how are you any better saying things like that? It's just gross. This fight is soon followed by another fight when Jordan gets into an argument with Jessica over money, and more specifically, how much do you have to earn to be considered middle class in America? Which, like, honestly, who cares? I know I don't. But Jordan's inability to let things go escalates the situation into a full-blown fight. That was just annoying to watch. Not that I like Jessica, but right now I don't like Jordan either. In a theme consistent across all my videos, when alcohol is added to a situation, it gets so much worse. And as it turns out, Jordan is not exactly a fun drunk, he's more of an obnoxious drunk. So much so that the other house guests leave him in a bar all alone, which I thought was really mean, but also kind of really funny. Jordan's combative and sometimes aggressive attitude results into a lot of discussion in the house about why he is the way he is, which results into him opening up a lot more about his father and the way he grew up.
You've learned things a certain way, and you think that's just your way, and then I've learned things
Your way.
my way. We were hit with fists, kicked. We were hit with belts, with anything. I mean, remote stuff. That's just how it was.
Our dad was very hard on us. Spankings. We got stuff thrown at us, but he always made it clear that, he loves us. It was never out of hate or anything like that.
I needed that, so now I can sit here and have somebody say anything in my face and it not hurt.
Never once have I ever felt I was abused. We grew up in the country, so it wasn't one of those go to your room, you're grounded, and you get to go play 5 different video game systems. It's you get your ass spanked, and then you go outside and do manual labor to think about what the hell.
I feel like, and this is just my opinion here, like I obviously don't know Jordan and I can't speak for him, but I get the sense that he went through his life with people constantly making him feel less than, especially when he was younger, which makes me think that his need to excel at everything and his overachieving nature and almost obsessive need to be right all the damn time is probably just a way for him to cope with a lot of self-doubts and low blows that people threw at him. I mean, it's happening in real time as I watch the show. And this is why I can't help but let a lot of the annoying things he says and does go, because I at least know where it's coming from.
Like, I know I'm a hard person to live with. I'm a hard person to like.
It's really hard.
If I had to hang out with myself, I'd kick my own ass. Like, I don't like who I am. I just don't know how to change. I've been this way for too long. Oh, no.
But it's at this point that another guest comes in as a replacement for a girl who ends up leaving the show for personal reasons. And well, enter Naya, or better known as Hurricane Naya. From this point on, the show turns into a whole other show. The petty fights are gone and we're getting into serious issues, as a slow war starts raging between Jordan and Naya. And honestly, Naya's the wrong person to mess with, like she honestly scares me. Both him and Naya can't stand each other. Jordan makes nasty comments about her being a gold digger and calling her other names, and Naya in turn is hell-bent on messing with him.
I just see Naya as someone who is looking to score big. She is God's gift to this green earth. I do this, I do that. I date this football player. I date this basketball player. Who cares? You're still a nobody from Atlanta who lives at home with your parents. Get over yourself.
Jordan feels like he has to prove that he's the biggest and the strongest and the baddest. I've got a mouthpiece and I'm not afraid to him up.
It starts off like usual with a bunch of petty arguments where Naya actually takes a dig at Jordan by suggesting he should hide his hand when he's approaching girls.
I'm not real good with like girls like talking to me.
Yeah, they do like you.
Would you help?
Keep your hand in your pocket and don't say much.
What's that mean?
Hey, look
Keep my
at
hand
this.
in my pocket.
Just keep your hand in your pocket.
And this is, I guess, a part of her psychological warfare she has going on. But anyways, the arguments quickly escalate into disaster. Naya has this whole plan where she intends to fluff Jordan up, which apparently means get close to him and maybe even flirt with him to get him to trust her before showing him who's boss? ? I don't really understand her endgame here, but it seems a little too much and comes off as emotional manipulation with a lot of unnecessary effort to mess with someone that you simply don't like.
So do you recognize, am I not fluffing this dude? I'm fluffing him. I'm flirting with Jordan because it's all part of like my scheme. Like, make him think that you're on his side. It's like the easiest game for me because I'm so manipulative and powerful. Like, I don't care about you. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and that just is what it is. At the end of the day, Naya never leaves it. I always get what I want.
What's scary about it is that she seems to be really enjoying it. Eventually, Jordan's and Naya's situation goes from bad-mouthing each other in confessionals to disgusting comments and physical assault. And this all takes place during the 6th episode of the show titled How to Play the Game. And I mean, a game does happen. During a night out drinking, Jordan and Naya get into another heated argument. Jordan ends up drinking too much, and back at the house we see him using the computer. Naya sees this as an opportunity to mess with him, like she literally says so in the show.
I see Jordan at the computer, hammered, and of course, I'm gonna with him.
And the two start flirting, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I was holding my breath watching this whole thing go down. It's so tense, and you know that this little game is gonna end up horribly. And of course it does. Naya won't leave Jordan's drunk ass alone, and she follows him to his bed where more flirting happens. She then pours alcohol into his mouth with him actively telling her not to. He gets upset and calls her a certain word that rhymes with roar. Then, confusingly, more flirting happens, during which Naya steals money from his wallet. Then she leaves, only to come back with a box of cereal that she tries to force feed Jordan. He doesn't like this, so he bites her leg and spits some cereal in her face. What am I even saying? What are those words? What has my life come to? Anyways, he gets smacked in the head a couple of times. Jordan says some racist things during the fight. Naya leaves, only to come back again to hit him him on the head with a metal clock repeatedly. At this point, Naya finally leaves Jordan alone and goes to bed, but Jordan follows her to her room and he refuses to leave. And this is where Naya ends up threatening him with a lamp, and Jordan responds with imitating certain gestures at her. I don't even want to dignify with a description. I will, however, put the clip here so you guys can get the full picture of what happened. And listen, before I comment on this whole thing, I just want to say that they both obviously suck and seem to have some real issues they needed to deal with, or at least they needed to deal with back then. Whatever your opinion is, specifically about Jordan's actions during this episode, is up to you, and I can't speak for everyone. Now obviously, Jordan is in the wrong here 100%, but I don't think Naya is completely innocent here. Had the roles been reversed and Jordan was the one trying to get her more drunk, cuddling and messing with her when she's intoxicated, and smacked her on the head with a metal object, I feel like he would have been kicked out instantly. Now obviously this doesn't excuse Jordan's usage of multiple, and I mean multiple, racial slurs during the fight, as well as making some really nasty gestures that leaves not only Naya but Marlon feeling insulted and hurt. And while he does make an apology in the following episode, he maintains that he was provoked into the whole thing. And if you thought that was the end of their interactions or fight for this season, you are so wrong. Meet Daisy. This adorable little puppy here belongs to Avery, and Avery is dating Johnny, which makes them her owners or parents. Now everyone loves Daisy. She's a good little girl that everyone in the house loves to cuddle with. Now when Daisy poops in the confessional room and Naya steps on her poop and drags it all throughout the house, she refuses to clean it up because, well, after all, it's not her dog. Why should she clean it up? And you might be wondering why I'm talking about Daisy or her poops in the first place. And the answer to that is simple. This whole argument over dog poop would escalate into a three-way fight between Naya, Johnny, and Avery that quickly turns violent when Johnny dumps water on Naya, after which she hits him multiple times, and then she grabs a blow dryer and goes looking for him. He's currently hiding in the bathroom, which prompts Naya into saying that he's a coward for hiding from her.
Boy is hiding from the girl. The little is hiding from the girl.
And honestly, girl, I would be hiding too, like you're crazy. When he comes out of the bathroom, Naya and her blow dryer launch a surprise attack on Johnny, which gets Avery involved and Jordan as well, as he tries to break up the fight. Unsuccessfully, because Naya refuses to let go of Avery's hair. After the fight seemingly comes to an end, Naya launches another surprise attack when she smacks the unsuspecting Avery in the back of the head completely unprovoked.
There's no rule in anybody's rule book that says, hey, once the fight is over, there can't be any more. I don't have to stop.
Avery, Johnny, and Daisy all decide to leave the house and stay in a hotel for the remaining episodes, which honestly, who can blame them? Jordan, however, finds himself once again being the target of Naya's anger, and this time she's bringing backup. Upset with him for holding her back during the whole poop gate, Naya recruits her friend to ambush and I guess beat up Jordan during a night out, which, hey, once you commit assault on national television, why not follow it up with more assault? Thankfully though, Marlon talks some sense into the friend and the whole thing gets cancelled, much to Naya's extreme disappointment.
Yesterday I wanted to kill him. I really wanted to put a hole in his head, hit me, but it was like I got touched last night, man. I think it was your boy Marlon.
Don basically flipped the script on my ass, and I just don't know if I can let go of it. Oh my God, why you do this to me?
Because it had to be, and I'm so sorry. Like, God just came through and was like, you gotta fix this. And I was just like,
don't you just hate it when your plans get cancelled last minute? Also, where are the producers? Hello, security, anyone? And I thought the fights on the challenge were bad, like good God. At the end of the season, this whole thing between Naya and Jordan gets resolved with apologies from both ends, and they hug it out at the reunion. And I don't even know what to say, I'm exhausted and I've written way too many words for this part of the video. But we aren't exactly done yet. After another castmate named Dee was banned from the challenge in 2020 following racially insensitive tweets she made on her account, clips of Naya and Jordan's fights resurfaced and caused an understandable amount of backlash towards Jordan. This then prompted both Naya and Jordan to go on Instagram Live to discuss the situation, during which Naya states that Jordan didn't ask her to do this in an effort to clear his name up, but rather she felt like she needed to defend her close friend against these allegations.
But
but I just wanted to put it out there on Front Street for us to have dialogue right now. I think that it's necessary, not just about like our situation, but also, you know, what's going on in the world and like how this can pertain to it, just with like a lot of the sensitivity and racial climate and whatnot. So that's why we decided to do this. One of the first things I wanted to say was like, you know, we did The Real World almost a decade ago. I mean, for us, it feels like a decade because of how much we've grown and evolved since then. But it's been a really long time. And so he and I have this really strong relationship and this, you know, bond that we've built, and it's not overnight, over the years, but since we stopped filming together. And, you know, we understand that you guys are going through it right now because some of you may have just watched The Real World or just watched the challenge, and some of our behavior and our experiences, you know, are hurtful. Talk about the situation at hand. So the night that Jordan, there were many nights that you and I had tit for tat, but the night in question.
We were troubled.
It's one of, honestly, I know it sucks that we have to talk about it in this capacity, but this was one of my favorite episodes because it was just so stupid. And I knew it was stupid in the moment, but, you know, we just took it to a place that, you know, it shouldn't have gone. But, you know, it
started so fine, you know, and it was cute. And yeah, but there was like an hour and it was just like of like steady.
It might have been longer than an hour because I felt like I just kept finding you and coming back and picking at you.
It was an hour and a half.
Yeah. And there was a lot of alcohol involved, you know. Okay, so to where it turned ugly, you had the Cheerios in your mouth and you were spitting them at me.
How did I get those Cheerios in my mouth?
Felt like, I don't like this. Did he spit on me, like with saliva? No, he was shooting just the Cheerios at me, and I decided I don't like that. That was where I drew the line, and then that's where it turned now. Okay, and so there was a part where, you know, we were saying things at each other and I was using the N-word towards you, and immediately you used it back at me. I want to, you know, just establish right now that at no point did you say with a hard ER, you said it's a distasteful, tacky, disgusting word that, you know, we use very loosely, casually, with no malice in my community. It's not an excuse, but in the moment, I used it at him and he used it at, he said it back to me. I, even then, didn't feel that it was coming from a racist place. It was just two people arguing back and forth. You know, as the argument progressed, he started, you know, mimicking a monkey. Even then, I didn't necessarily feel like I didn't attach it to like a racist gesture. It was more so I really just want to kick his ass because we were fighting about something that was obviously stupid, and there was like even this flirty tension between us before that, and so it just wasn't heavy for me. You know, I just felt like what we both did on both parts was tacky and distasteful and immature, but I just wanted to say how I feel like I can only give people my perspective, and my perspective in my heart of hearts, I knew even when I tried to ride that wave of this could be a racial thing, I just felt like it wasn't, because even the way you said the N-word, I knew it didn't come from that place. And to even though it's years ago, I still, you know, am passionate about just righting my wrong and knowing that some people may never forgive me and some people may never forgive Jordan. But I think that it's important for, you know, both of us to come together and show the beauty in all of this, whether you want to focus on that or not. I love him. He loves me. Our friendship should probably have never happened, you know, because of how crazy and intense the heat of it was. But we still forced our way through that and were able to find our way to the other side. And I think that's the story that I would like to be carried, you know, from here on out.
Moreover, she stresses that even at the time of filming the episode, which was at the time 7 years back, she never felt like Jordan's words or behavior were coming from a nasty place. Which is kind of weird since I found these screenshots of her tweeting live during the episode premiere, and the whole thing and her feelings then were very different. She later followed up the live with a lengthy Instagram post reiterating her love and forgiveness of Jordan. Quote, "As many of you know by now, this is my dear friend Jordan Wiseley. 10 years ago, we were each other's worst enemy. If you followed our journey since the real world Portland and our last time on the challenge, then you bore witness to the many ugly things we said did to one another. It would be 7 years till you'd see us together again back in Panama, facing the ghost of our past and forced to reflect in front of the world. What you haven't seen, I find most important to share, and that is the growth we've done off camera in those 7 years. The girl I was at 24 was defensive, incredibly prideful, and ignorant of the consequences of my words and actions. Initially, back then, I fought to justify my behavior because accountability was too painful to bear. But as time passed, I healed, I evolved. One of the things that stood in my way was forgiveness. I would not only have to choose forgiveness for myself in order to move forward, but also drop my pride and ask for it in return. I feared he would never give it to me. Thankfully, Jordan mutually embraced this challenge, took my hand, and led the way. The years since you last saw us have been filled with so much personal and collaborative growth, as well as the development of genuine respect for one another. We patched our wounds and healed together behind closed doors rather than on the stage, because we were doing it for us and no one else. More than anything, I hope our story showcases the power of healing and forgiveness. You can, with a little courage, do the same in your own lives. And I have to tell you, it feels so damn good when you do. I love this man with my entire heart, in this lifetime and the next. I thank God that we made it through that valley, together on our own terms. All I ask is that you guys consider one thing. Consider giving us grace. Grace to abandon the condemnation of our past transgressions. Grace to keep on growing and healing, and sprinkling bits of love into our journey. We kinda need that, and we've earned it, I think." Unquote. Part 2. The Challenge. Jordan would go on to make his first appearance on the challenge in 2013 with the premiere of Rivals 2. This season finds him teamed up with his real-world castmate Marlon, and despite not ending up on the best of terms during filming that show, they actually end up working really well together and become a real threat in the house. Both guys are obviously physically fit and their communication is on point, which gives them a great start that they maintain throughout the season. They also manage to stay away from drama completely, all the way up to episode 6 where the tide turns. During the voting ceremony which decides which team is going to be sent into elimination, they find themselves forced into choosing between two teams, Jemmy and Camilla or Teresa and Jasmine. They initially give their word to Teresa and Jasmine, only to change their vote last minute and vote them in, a move which results into an argument where Teresa calls them untrustworthy, only for Jordan to fire back with, "You're only angry because you're going home," and I mean, she does go home. But the repercussions of this vote would follow them into the next episode, where we see Johnny Bananas and his partner in the game, Frank, campaigning for Jordan and Marlon to be sent in next, and they do so by using the whole thing of them not being trustworthy as the reason. However, it's obvious to anyone watching that their main motivation and reason for wanting them out is their great performance so far, especially with Jordan's really impressive swimming, which can mean the difference between first or second place in the final. Jordan overhears their discussion with the girls and a fight breaks out. And honestly, Frank is the worst. I really can't stand him.
So how's the campaign going?
Jordan accuses me of campaigning against him. This could not be more untrue.
If you guys do not send the rookies in, it's going to be the dumbest thing you guys have ever done. They made a promise that they've already gone back on. They have not been in elimination yet, and they're rookies, dude.
They directly said last week I broke my word.
Jordan finds himself in his first elimination ever, going in against Leroy and Ty, who both have done several seasons before and are great physical players, which results into a really impressive and tense 3-round elimination, with the first round going to Jordan and Marlon, followed by Leroy and Ty winning, and then finally Jordan bringing home the win. This elimination is followed by another elimination that happens one episode from the final, with Jordan and Marlon going in against Knight and Preston, and they manage to secure the win, and by doing so, they officially secure Jordan's place in his first ever final, which is so impressive. Surviving 2 eliminations and getting to run the final as a rookie on your first season is not bad. However, unfortunately for Jordan, he wouldn't get to complete the final, as a surprise twist is announced where the 3rd place team would be knocked out of the final and given 3rd place and an $8,000 prize. And as you probably guessed by now, Jordan and Marlon come in 3rd. However, it's not completely Jordan's fault, as the race begins with a swim, which Jordan, like usual, excels in. However, Marlon, who's ironically named after a fish, struggles and comes in last. This affects the next stage of the final, where the teams are stuck doing a complicated puzzle. And while CT and Wes finish first, Jordan and Marlon are tied with Johnny and Frank. And by tied, I mean that they both can't get the puzzle right and are forced to wait for the time to finish. And because Frank and Johnny swam faster than Marlon, they get to leave first, officially taking the 2nd and last place in the final, leaving Jordan in 3rd place and unable to finish the final. And again, really impressive performance for Jordan on his rookie season, especially against CT, Wes, Johnny and Frank. And I'm sure had he gotten the chance to run the whole final, he would have made things tough for them. His next appearance on the challenge would be the following year while filming season 25, known as Free Agents, where, as the name suggests, we'll have Jordan competing alone as a free agent. This season is notable for introducing the kill card, which adds an interesting twist to the game, where each of the worst performing players of the week would go down to flip a set of cards. Whichever player picks the kill card is then sent into elimination against whoever the house voted in, and this kill card twist would be responsible for one of Jordan's most infamous moments on the show, but more on that later. This season reunites Jordan with a few of his real-world castmates, including Johnny, who he forms an alliance with, as well as Jessica, who he argues with throughout the season. And well, Naya is also here, but she doesn't make it far. As I mentioned earlier, season 25 is played individually, which means no one can hold Jordan back, except of course himself. And he does a pretty good job of ruining his game from pretty much the beginning of the season, as Free Agents marks some of Jordan's most controversial decisions ever, including hooking up with Laurel, which, ew. Every time they're on screen together, I just get so uncomfortable. I'm not sure why. Okay, well probably because it's like I hate Laurel, so probably that's why. Johnny Bananas and Jordan, who didn't get along in the previous season, continue their feud throughout Free Agents, each taking turns and instigating one another.
How about those stripes? It wasn't me in there, homie. I hope I see you in here. You damn straight. You won't just be missing a hand after you come in here, but I'm gonna take your head off.
All right. Battle line's been drawn. I'll send you home. No worries.
Tell who I'm going after first. Hell hath no fury, like a banana scorned.
And unlike season 24, where Johnny and Frank could influence the votes against Jordan and his partner Marlon, this season Jordan is the one campaigning for Johnny to go home, and he has the numbers to do so, especially with his connection to Laurel and Johnny, and maybe even Cara Maria, who's at this point best friends with Laurel and has her own feud with Johnny Bananas. This results into Johnny Bananas getting nominated to go in against Isaac, who he beats, as well as him getting nominated a second time during episode 7, but this time Jordan proceeds to go down and flip every single card to ensure he gets the kill card, and he does so to back up his multiple threats this season of him sending Johnny Bananas home. However, as you probably know, this doesn't really work out that way, as Jordan loses to Johnny and ends up going home. Overall, this season showcases an immature, prideful and arrogant Jordan, who I feel made a really stupid decision and made the game too personal, and in the process lost what could have been an easy ride all the way to the final, especially with his strong alliance in the house. Moreover, Johnny Bananas, as much as I can't stand him, at least had the resume to be flaunting his skills every single season. In Jordan's case, this was literally his second appearance on the challenge. He was a little more than a rookie, and it was a bit too much. Now, was it fun to watch? Yes, it was, and very dramatic. And while I wasn't exactly sad to see Jordan go home, I did wish that this rivalry didn't all come down to an elimination that you kinda needed two hands for. Not to make excuses for Jordan, but I feel like I have to point it out. Johnny Bananas definitely had the upper hand here, no puns intended. In the end, Jordan's pride cost him a lot of money, and it started a fight that would continue into their union.
They say that confidence is silent and insecurities are loud. I've never seen it better personified than with this guy, dude. You say,
That's not
why
my
do you
problem at
feel
all.
why do you feel the need to work out all the time, to do all this stuff? Because you will always have something on me. What is that? You got one hand. So I have to extrally prove myself. Trying to prove something that you don't need to prove. You do better with one hand than most people would do with two hands, but you don't need to constantly be reminding us of it.
Jordan's personality and overall attitude would be a lot more tolerable during his next appearance on the challenge, on season 28 Battle of the Exes 2. At least it was, for the most part. This season brings a lot of the regular players back, but it also introduces 9 rookies from MTV's other shows, The Real World and Are You the One? And the introduction of these rookies will allow for some really strategic and cutthroat moves to be made towards the end of the show, and I really liked watching it. This season finds Jordan paired up with Sarah, who he hooked up with during his first season on the show, and honestly their team up is pretty epic. They start off the season really strong with good communication and excellent performance during the daily challenges, and I especially liked Sarah's determination. After competing on 8 seasons of the show without winning, she's coming in focused and determined to do whatever it takes to win.
I'm playing this like a chess game, and I am looking many moves ahead. I'm on challenge number 8, for God's sakes, and luckily I've learned a few things from watching some other winning teams make it far.
Her mindset this season lines up pretty well with Jordan's, who's always extremely competitive and eager to prove himself, and who has also toned down the douchebag energy a lot, which made watching him and rooting for him a lot easier, especially when seeing how he takes on and overcomes the daily challenges, which are difficult for all the players with only a single hand. It's truly impressive to watch him try and succeed at doing them. Sarah's and Jordan's ability to work well together lands them the power position after winning a daily challenge during episode 3, and Sarah uses this momentum to basically set both her and Jordan up for a smooth ride for the remaining runtime of the show by making alliances with both Wes and Johnny Bananas, who both despise each other, and she capitalizes on that hate by promising both of them royalty and a final deal.
You know where you fall on our list.
I'm glad. What Sarah and Jordan are telling me is that they are on board to have my back.
Number 1 on my list. That is a name that I cannot say in this house.
And Sarah, on the other hand, has always been one of my closest, most trusted allies.
I'm gonna beat these boys at their own game. These guys think that they are the only ones who get to control what happens in this house, but guess what? I'm smarter than you think, and I'm gonna play both sides against each other, and nobody's gonna be any the wiser.
By doing so, she guarantees safety from arguably the 2 strongest competitors in the game. At this point of the season, Wes takes a shot at Johnny Bananas and manages to send him home when he votes him in against his best friend in the house, Leroy. Leroy and his partner, Naya, send Johnny and Nani home, but not for long, as a twist later on would allow Johnny Bananas to come back in the game, which is really annoying, but oh well, it is what it is. And this sets the stage for Sarah's epic blindside, a blindside that will haunt both her and Johnny for a long time, but more on that later. Jordan's and Sarah's relationship takes a sudden turn to the worst when the teams are challenged to a mini final during which Sarah struggles to keep up with Jordan, which leaves him feeling frustrated and disappointed with her performance. Sarah, on the other hand, is annoyed at his reaction. They spend a few episodes bickering.
Jordan's mood destroyed the relationship that Jordan and I had built. He's turned into such an asshole.
thinks that she has just all this power to control me how she sees fit.
You told me to not get excited. I wasn't getting my. Who cares if I'm excited? I let you get your enthusiasm over everything.
That's not what I was talking about. You have to keep a level head through everything. That's all I was saying.
I can get excited if
Sarah,
I want
I'm
to get
done
excited.
with this conversation.
Oh my god. I can't.
But when Sarah writes Jordan a letter explaining her feelings and apologizing, the two make up and Jordan apologizes as well, in a heartwarming moment. However, during the dysfunctional period of their relationship, Jordan is seen bitching about Sarah to Zach, and the two have a conversation where Zach, who has been absolutely horrible to his partner John A., essentially calls women inferior, and Jordan agrees with him. Which, I mean, I don't even know what to say there. I don't know.
Women were created from men. God took a rib out of Adam to create Eve, so they are made to be feared. And are we supposed to honor them? Yes. These aren't our wives. These are swamp donkeys.
Jordan and Sarah find themselves in an elimination round after having technical issues during the next daily challenge, where they tangled up their ropes, which resulted into them failing to complete the task. This mistake leads to them facing off against Zach and his partner John A. And during this epic face-off that made me feel exhausted just by watching, Jordan outperforms Zach, who not only has a lot of weight and muscle on him, but he also has a two-hand advantage and was going in feeling overly confident about his ability to send Jordan home.
It is pretty ironic that I resemble Thor a little bit and I'm swinging a hammer.
I'm pretty confident in Zach. This is something that's...
And Sarah's performance is just as impressive, which made me really excited for them to get back in the game and dominate it all the way to the final. And they do. Their next daily challenge win is orchestrated by Johnny Bananas and Nani, who are back from the dead because of an exile twist that I won't get into the details of. All you guys need to know is Johnny is back and he wants Wes out. He knows that his best chance of taking Wes out of the game is to send in Leroy against him, but because of his close relationship with Lee, he opts to let Jordan and Sarah take the shot instead by throwing the daily challenge and giving them all the power. And the plan works perfectly. Wes goes home and this trust-building little exercise solidifies Jordan's and Sarah's alliance with Johnny and Nani, an alliance which doesn't last long, as soon after Sarah and Jordan would go on to win the final daily challenge, securing their place in the final, as well as giving them the power to decide who gets to go in to face Leroy and Naya, who are the worst performing team of the week. And this decision has to be made on the spot. And Sarah sees her opportunity to get rid of Johnny Bananas, who has a reputation of winning finals, and she takes it, to the surprise of both Johnny Bananas and Jordan.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Learn from the best in these games, and the things I've learned from the best have helped them win in the past, and I'm hoping that it'll help me win this time. So the team I want to pick, unfortunately, is Bananas and Nani.
You're lying, Sarah.
I love this move. By choosing to send in Johnny, Sarah saves Jenna and Jay, who, let's be honest, are basically layups. And that goes double for Jay, who performs horribly at the final. So yeah, her decision is ruthless, especially when you see it from Johnny's point of view, who not only gets sent home again, one episode from the final and by his close ally in the house, after fighting to come back in the game, and to go in against Lee, his best friend, again, it's all too much, and I love it. The tension is high when all four teams are forced to stay in a hotel suite together. Naya especially gets heated, and having already attacked Nani with a bunch of low blows earlier in the season, she turns her attention to Sarah and Jordan. Sarah gets a bunch of hateful words thrown her way, while Jordan gets that and a lot more.
It's a mommy fat fake bitch who doesn't work hard and wants to cheat her way. And then you got this partner right here. You can keep going. Just like you. Got a vagina.
Don't pull his pants down.
And I am here too because I want to make your life a living hell.
You couldn't stay halfway close enough
I'm so good
to even talk to something.
You are too. Like making out with dude.
Hey, that's only on Tuesdays. Thank you very much.
You're still. You were born with that. And I'm talking about this, baby. I'm talking about this.
Right here.
This vagina. I'm talking about that. Who here is gonna believe you, Jordan?
Who here would pull somebody else's pants down?
Who would do that? I thought you were big with the gay community.
I am. They absolutely love me. So nothing you say is gonna like turn them against me. They love me. You're already done. That's not gonna work.
There is a fine line between calling someone names and then there's crossing that line and actually physically grabbing and touching somebody. And I mean, let's face it, we can't touch you.
This results in Naya being disqualified and replaced with Teresa. Lee and Teresa beat Johnny Bananas and Nani, sending them home for good this time, thus basically setting the stage for Jordan and Sarah to dominate the final, which they do. I mean, they're so ahead that Sarah gets to stop and poop, which I found to be hilarious and completely understandable after all the nasty fish drinks they had to down. Jokes aside though, I was really excited to see Jordan and Sarah win. They played a great political game, and for Jordan specifically, this adds to his resume, which has 3 seasons, 2 finals and 1 win. I mean, impressive. But before ending this season and moving on to the next, here's a clip of Naya, I guess, apologizing to Jordan, if you can even call it an apology.
I could not control my emotions. It's just because of how passionate I am about friendship and integrity and sportsmanship. Me putting my hands on you, I did cross the line. I took ownership for that, and you know I have.
Take that off take the hands off the table. The words.
What? Should I have touched him or groped him? Was I trying to, petty and aggressive? Yes, but that's not who I am. I'm not a bully. That's why I don't feel like I have to defend myself that much, because it's not my truth.
Jordan takes a few years off, skipping a few seasons, following his win of $125,000 to win an even larger amount of money this season, and how he gets there is full of ups and downs. This season showcases Jordan and his mustache, which I like to refer as the mustache era, which is by far my least favorite era, right behind the mullet era. Jokes aside though, this season has an impressive caliber of players and an even more impressive prize of $1 million. Split between the winning girl and guy. It also introduces the twist of the double cross, which allows the worst performing players to pick between a few blocks. Whoever picks the lucky draw gets safety and the power to send in one of their opponents down to face off against whoever the house votes in. And while Jordan has a really impressive performance this season, he also gets undeniably lucky when he picks the safety cross a total of 3 times, guaranteeing his safety and sending mostly Hunter down for elimination. The mix of the double cross as well as the redemption house, which is a house where the players go after they get eliminated in order to compete once again to get back in the game, keeps the season interesting. What's also interesting is Jordan's inability to finish a season without saying something offensive. He starts off by yelling and complaining about the house being dirty, which yeah, I can give him that, since apparently there were flies everywhere, like ew.
How did not one leg make it on? Even statistics say 1 should have made it. 2 jars of jelly, 3 jars of peanut butter, and 2 knives. How the did not 1 make you back on?
But things quickly get worse on a bus ride from the club where drunk Jordan participates in what was supposed to be a friendly dissing game, and he takes it too far, and you know it's bad when even Camilla is shocked.
Jordan, you act so proud, but instead of getting smarter, you just get more loud.
Always act like a bitch. You keep touching Kayla like that, you're gonna get that Corey itch.
You're coming at me with that bass. You got that Down syndrome face.
Jordan makes fun of Jemmy's appearance and basically the whole Down syndrome community. He does follow this up with an apology, but it's too little, too late.
Every girl in this house an apology. It was inappropriate on so many levels. You feel so entitled. It's not okay. You want to make fun of disabled people? Please, Jordan, you should be an advocate.
I absolutely regret what I said to you, Jemmy. I hate that I hurt you. I'm so sorry. I know that I've hurt her, and I know that I've got a road to travel to gain back her trust.
Do I forgive Jordan? Absolutely. I think Jordan does feel bad. You're gonna encounter men in your life who speak down to you because of their own insecurities.
And this incident turns the whole house against him, especially the girls, which results into him going into an elimination against Amo. The elimination is grueling and extremely physical, and while Amo puts up a good fight, Jordan ends up winning. Amo, however, looks to be in physical and emotional distress once the elimination finishes. He has to be escorted out in an ambulance, and we later get an update that while he's physically well, he will be leaving the show because of his mental health. The season solidifies Jordan's feud with Cara Maria when he and his team win an important daily challenge that gives them the power to send in players straight to the redemption house, and Jordan campaigns for Cara and CT to go in. This is really ironic since Jordan finds himself sent into the redemption house in the same exact way by Hunter, who he sent in for elimination twice. Jordan obviously receives a warm welcome from Cara in the redemption house.
Good to see you. Come on.
And there he is. Jordan. I'll go back to the other house now, please. Thank you.
But things escalate when he goes on to tell her that he would rather run the final with Camilla instead of her.
Whoa. No one wants to run a final with you.
With me?
Yes.
Nobody wants to run a final
Absolutely.
with me.
Final is all about being able to improvise. And thinking about running a final with Cara Maria absolutely makes my skin crawl. In any pressure situation, Cara Maria loses it.
Over Camilla? You'd rather run with Camilla in a final over me?
Yes.
Night on the couch, Jordan. Come on, let's go.
Learn how to play.
One night on
You
the
ain't
couch,
the
Jordan.
best.
Let's go.
Which escalates the fight and the feud further. A fight that would reach intense heights during Jordan's next challenge appearance. Now, to play the devil's advocate here, I kinda get where Jordan is coming from. Historically speaking, the finals have had a swimming portion, and Cara Maria isn't the best at swimming. And also, Camilla, as horrible as she is actually a really strong and well-rounded competitor. So it kinda makes sense. But on the other hand, Jordan's way of talking to Cara and going as far as saying none of the guys wanna run the final with her would not true and very insulting, especially since she has already proven herself at this point by winning season 27 Battle of the Bloodlines. Anyways, during the challenge where the players in the redemption house compete for a spot in the game, CT, Jordan, and Cara all make it back, and Jordan's win the following episode officially secures his place in the final. And the competition is tough. You have CT, Derek, Cara, Camilla, and Tori all competing in the final episode, as they start off the final with skydiving from an airplane, which scares Cara to death, something which both CT and Jordan make fun of.
I've never jumped out of a perfectly good plane, no.
There's a high chance you slam into the ground.
What are you doing, Jordan?
Being on it.
But as it turns out, Cara was right to be scared, since Jordan has a really nasty fall while landing that leaves him with what he later would reveal as a hairline fracture of his leg. But despite this, Jordan insists on leaving the ambulance and simply walks off the injury, which is so badass, and goes on to dominate the challenge, securing the first place finish and a shitload of money, which I mean, again, really impressive. Jordan, however, would receive backlash, understandably, once the episode where he insulted Jemmy aired. And while he did apologize during the episode and seemed to be sincere, at least to me, apparently he followed it up with a kinda douchey response. Quote, "And with that, I would like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody except Jemmy. The champ apologizes for nothing." Unquote. Although to be fair, this screenshot is from ages ago and I have no way of verifying it, especially since I can't seem to find it in any other sources. But for completion's sake, I thought I'd include it. Another controversy that Jordan would face years after the season aired would come from Amo, who faced him during Jordan's first elimination of the season. Amo would appear on a podcast where they would accuse Jordan of deliberately acting aggressively towards them during the elimination, and asked that they suffered physical and emotional injuries that left them feeling like the whole elimination was very similar to a hate crime.
Like, they knew Jordan was a racist, they knew Dee was a racist. So at the point where I went up against Jordan and I had been fighting in the house because of all of the comments he had made about Jemmy looking like she had Down syndrome. I worked with kids with Down syndrome for 5 years. I was like, that's unacceptable. I also thought that his past, the way that he had treated Naya, his history of racism was deplorable. And then he was pretty transphobic to me on the show as well during filming, which we've since made amends, but I'm sorry, you can say sorry. It doesn't take away from the fact that you were transphobic on national television. That's your problem, not mine. Been fighting in the house quite a bit, like tensions had really been brewing. And so they were like, oh shit, now we can get Amo out of here and we can give Jordan a redemption arc. So then they put Jordan and I in that sand wrestling thing together, but then they also didn't realize that I had wrestled in high school. So I won the first 3 rounds, and I think that like winning the first 3 rounds and making like he's this like big semi-professional wrestler, and this like little from Brooklyn is kicking his ass. So then he just started like beating the shit out of me, like dragging my head through the dirt. My scalp was bleeding and had dirt like in my skin that I then had to like pull out over the course of weeks. I mean, like when I left that elimination round, my body was so battered, I could barely walk. And so people were like expecting me to come back on the show. And I'm like, I just had a mental and physical breakdown on national television. Absolutely. So, I mean, and to me, it really did kind of feel like it was like a hate crime that was condoned by production, because they knew he had been saying like transphobic stuff to me all week. So then you put someone who's like hyper masculine up against a trans person in a wrestling match, of course they're going to beat the shit out of them. And then what's gross is I feel like that's what a lot of the viewers want to see, because there are a lot of people that watch the show that are racist, that are homophobic, that are transphobic, that are misogynistic. And like, these people love watching people like me get the shit beat out of me.
Which, I mean, this is the challenge. Eliminations do get very aggressive, and broken bones and bruises are nothing new, so I'm not sure what Amo expected. And to be honest, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you guys may feel differently, but I feel like going as far as saying it was a hate crime and that it was orchestrated by the production seems a bit too far for me. And I'm not saying this because it's Jordan involved. I would be saying this about anyone, even Tony, who I can't stand. One more thing to mention before moving on to the next season. Dirty 30 is where Jordan would meet Tori Deal, and they would start a very public relationship. I go into the details of this whole timeline, engagement, and breakup on my Tori Deal series. So I'm just gonna skip it here because God knows, I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I mean, we're already on page 15. Jordan's next appearance would be 2 years later on season 34, known as War of the Worlds 2, which finds him competing with his then girlfriend Tori Deal. Now, I covered this season in detail during my first video ever on this channel, but it was focused more on Tori's perspective, so we are gonna have to dive into it once again, something which I wasn't really looking forward to, because while I loved watching the drama and fights go down, this season can be very decisive, and you're usually either on Jordan's and Tori's side or Paulie's and Kara's. And having watched it a second time, I honestly feel like both sides have their moments. Jordan and Tori's larger alliance took the first shots, and Kara and Paulie's side took shots back in retaliation. And at the heart of all the drama are two of my least favorite players on the show ever, Josh and Laurel. But I'll talk about that later. The theme of the season pits larger teams of American and UK players against each other, and the American team has one of the best lineups I've seen on the challenge, made up of big personalities that have competed against each other for years. Now suddenly they are expected to play nice, which, as you probably figured, is easier said than done. From the first few episodes, we see a divide within the Americans, with two major alliances forming. This happens after Wes's connection to 3 UK players is exposed, including Joss, Rogan, and Dee. This, followed by an argument between the Americans, specifically Josh and Wes, leads to speculation about Wes forming a secret alliance within the American team before the game started. Which, I mean, it is Wes, he's gonna form alliances, like he's sneaky. All of this suspicion and lack of trust eventually leads to a crack forming in the middle of the American team, with Wes and his people on one side, which includes Wes himself, Kara, Paulie, Cam, Ninja, Leroy, and Ashley. versus Laurel's side with Johnny Bananas, Jordan, Tori, Josh, Zach, and Nani. Team Laurel takes the first shot, with her and Josh using their vote to throw in their own teammate Wes against a UK player, in a really sneaky move that sends Wes home. With this, the American team is officially divided and completely dysfunctional, despite being the obvious stronger team that wins damn nearly all the daily challenges. Giving them the power to send in the UK players into eliminations, they will end up outvoting each other and taking shots at the team within their team, effectively weakening themselves in the process. Team USA loses Laurel after Laurel and Johnny throw the daily challenge in an effort to get rid of Ninja, who's aligned with Cara and Polly. However, in a very satisfying turn of events, Laurel gets voted in by the UK team, who sees her as untrustworthy, and she ends up going home on a challenge she threw, which karma.
If we lose today, it's not the end of the world.
Man, I play fair.
Devil works hard, but Bananas and Laurel works harder. So one vote. All right, Laurel, come on.
Johnny Bananas follows her soon after on a daily challenge that the Americans win, with Polly and Cara deciding to send in their own teammate Johnny against a UK player named Theo, who beats Johnny, sending him home. With Laurel and Johnny gone, Team Cara and Polly have all the numbers, and in turn the power to send in whoever they want. And Jordan quickly becomes a huge target for them. He gets on Ashley, Cam, and Cara's nerves with his usual arrogant and sometimes douchey attitude. His feud with Cara is especially strong this season, with them bad-mouthing each other on confessionals and in person.
Describe Cara Maria. Fake?
Jordan. He's just a dick. He's just a smug, arrogant prick. We don't like each other. We don't have to like each other. Stay out of my way. I'm gonna stay out of your way.
You can't get in my way because you'll be behind me.
Jordan constantly puts people down and makes people feel like they have to prove something to him. Nobody needs to prove anything to Jordan.
Never sweat a single drop that goes towards Cara winning anything. I would love nothing more than to see Cara out of this game.
He also manages to get into a stupid fight with Turbo over a really stupid reason. The fight slowly escalates when Ashley instigates another fight between him and Turbo, and later Jordan would mock Turbo, leading to Turbo getting so angry that he has to be held back by 4 security guards. This results into Turbo getting sent home, and Team USA loses another strong player. With the divide in the house being extremely clear at this point, Cara, Polly, and their alliance members send in Tori for elimination, while at the same time controlling the majority votes on the other side in the Brits team, which is so damn impressive because Cara and Polly are working with Joss, Rogan, and Kayla, who are all British. They are able to influence them to send in one of the Brits' strongest female players against Tori, like their alliance has full control of the game. Tori faces off against Georgia and wins. Recognizing that her own team would continue to send her in to eliminations, she switches sides to the UK team. She is then joined by Jordan, who finds himself getting sent into elimination by Cara, Polly, and the other members of what is later referred to as Cara's cult, which I find to be a very appropriate name. Jordan faces off against Theo. He puts up a really impressive performance that allows him to stay in the game. He proposes to his girlfriend and then joins her on the Brits team, which means Team US has lost both Jordan and Tori, who, like them or not, are some of the best performers left in the game, and now they are playing for the other side, although Cara and Polly don't seem to see the problem with that. They are completely blinded by hate at this point, and I'll be honest, Cara specifically is actually hard to like this season. She constantly makes digs at Jordan's and Tori's relationship, calling it fake and staged for the show, and she opts to skip the engagement party that the house throws for them, even though Polly manages to show up and offers what seems to be genuine wishes for the couple. Cara, on the other hand, is unable to look beyond the game and make things way too personal, in my opinion.
She's gonna be paying for that ring when he sabotages our team. Sorry.
Are you kidding me with that comment?
Nope. I don't want to be that person, but it's kind of eye-rolly. Fake is
And I understand that Cara has a lot of fans out there, and I actually do like her. I'm just speaking about this season specifically. As I mentioned in the start of the video, these here are just my opinions, they're not facts. And you guys are free to disagree with me, and you probably do, as it's natural with these shows to have your favorites. But anyways, midway through the season, CT, who finds himself competing with the Brits team after the Americans chooses Turbo over him, makes a deal with Cara and Paulie and officially becomes part of their alliance in order to protect himself. He then goes on to throw a daily challenge in order to get Tori voted in against Jenny. Tori manages to beat her in a hall brawl, and Jordan is then sent in to face off against Josh in another really impressive elimination, where Jordan showcases intelligence and strategy in order to beat Josh, who has a lot of weight on him and 2 functioning hands.
During the entire fight, I'm watching Josh's hands, watching his body, to see what does he do right before he pulls. And finally, I've seen it. Time it just right. Round 1, baby. Everything he has into that rope, and I have every ounce of strength in my veins going into my one hand.
At the final, the American team, consisting of Cara, Paulie, Ninja, Ashley, Cam, Leroy, and Zach, faces off against the much leaner UK team made up of Jordan, Tori, CT, Rogan, and D. And it's not a fair fight at all, as the American team completely falls apart, having eliminated or pushed off their strongest players, allowing the UK team to completely outperform them. Paulie's collapse during the first stage of the final, as well as Cara's freak out at both the eating portion and the math problem, is especially notable. And to be fair, is something that Jordan pointed out and predicted a few seasons back. And while Tori gets purged out of the game by a puzzle, the UK team, made up of 2 Americans, 1 Australian, and only a single player actually from the UK, manages to bring home the title of champions, as well as $250,000 for each player. During the season, it's hard not to root for Jordan, as he has to fight his way all the way to the top, surviving 2 eliminations and putting up a really impressive performance during the final. He always talks such a big game, but I have to say, when it comes time to proving it, he does so well. Watching him take on Theo and Josh, 2 players who have a lot of advantages over him, and winning is really satisfying. And while the season marks Jordan's 3rd back-to-back win, his next appearance on season 35, Total Madness, would have a much more disappointing outcome. Jordan's 6th appearance on the challenge would be brief but memorable. He would be joined by his fiancée Tori Deal as the 2 compete to bring home the prize money of $1 million. However, once Tori is eliminated in episode 7 by Jenna, she leaves Jordan alone and vulnerable in the game. This opportunity is used by Johnny Bananas and Wes, who for once decide to put their differences aside and actually work together in what they refer to as the Unholy Alliance, which is really cute to watch. I kinda love watching them together.
Bananas and I have what we're referring to as the Unholy Alliance.
While Wes may look like a number 2, he's actually my number 1.
I want to hear your name and smile forever.
But anyways, they recognize that having Jordan in the final is likely to mess up their chances of winning, so they opt to send in Fessy, a rookie player, against him in a grip contest, which is ruthless and borderline heartless. Not only is Fessy huge and twice his size, but he's also likely to win against any other guy in the house based on strength alone. But in a grip contest, really, against the guy with one hand, is heartless. Jordan tries his best, but after Fessy lands on him with all of his weight, Jordan's shoulder of his good hand gets messed up. He struggles to hold on to the ring, leading Fessy to an easy win.
Look at that weight discrepancy.
I know. So my good hand is underneath, my bad hand is up top, and I have to hold this pole with my wrist.
I wish I could describe to you guys the pain that is shooting through my arm. No excuses. You keep playing. It's either win or go home. I really hope anyone out there with a disability, I hope you just do it. Don't let the fear of losing, keep you from doing it. I've had something to prove my whole life. For anyone watching, just do it.
Following his appearance on Total Madness, Jordan would go on to experience a very public breakup with his then fiancée Tori Deal, the timeline of which I covered in detail in my Tori Deal 3 video series. Jordan would skip a few seasons and his next appearance would be in 2022 in season 38, known as Ride or Dies, where he would be competing with Anissa as his partner and against his ex-fiancée Tori. Ride or Dies is notable for one of my least favorite Jordan haircuts, the mullet. It's also notable for Jordan's excellent performance, especially with Anissa, who he has a great relationship with and does a really good job of motivating her throughout the season. Jordan's personality is a lot more likable in Ride or Dies, as he showcases some great sportsmanship and he is way less focused on winning. To me, it feels like he's just there to have fun and get Anissa as far as he can, which is really refreshing to see.
I'm deflecting as much as I can, and something that actually really touches me is that every time I do deflect the ball, Jordan tells me good job. He's probably one of the best players in this game, so he's kind of keeping me motivated even though he's on an opposing team.
I would have lost it myself. Having someone finally that supports me and when I can't says you can, it's like he's the voice that I need in my head.
We are always our biggest enemies, and I know you can.
Thank you.
I know you can. I can't has to be turned into I can, because yes, you can.
And of course, there's the whole calling his ex-fiancée a terrorist, which I mean, very relatable.
Not negotiate with terrorists.
Who wouldn't want to call their ex that on national television if they had the chance? I mean, I know I would. Despite the multiple, and I mean multiple fights Jordan would have with Tori throughout the season, he and Anissa would go on to reach the final, which is awesome to see, especially having gone through multiple eliminations and Jordan actually losing to Horacio in my favorite head-to-head elimination of the season. Horacio, who's an absolute beast, and to be honest kinda reminds me of young Jordan, just way less douchey, manages to eliminate Jordan in a grueling multiple round elimination. However, Jordan would be back and he and Anissa would run the final together, where we once again see Jordan's ruthless, competitive side taking over. As he gets frustrated with Anissa, they however land in third place and walk away with the $38,000 prize money, making this Jordan's 5th final on the challenge. An honorable mention is Jordan's appearance and subsequent win on World Championship, where he would be partnered up with Kaz. He and Kaz would walk away with a $250,000 prize each upon completing the season, which I mean, Jordan almost always shows up to win. Part 3: Beyond the Challenge. Jordan seems to be in a happy relationship with a singer-songwriter that goes by the name Diner. She's absolutely stunning, and from Jordan's post on his social media accounts, the pair seem to be perfectly happy, content, and very supportive of each other. The stunning artist also ushered my favorite Jordan era, the cowboy era, which I don't know why, but I'm honestly such a fan. Seeing them both in matching cowboy hats is just adorable.
Everyone's always asking how Diner and I met, and I always think it's hilarious and say we met on Instagram. However, I saw a post that Diner was going to be performing at a venue, and I made it a point to be there, and she performed, and when she got off stage, she was, making her way through the crowd and everything, and I went up and said something. However, she will tell you that my friends went and told her that I had a crush on her, and I was there to see her.
But aside from his love life thriving, Jordan also expanded his career to include what seems to be a successful fashion line and a career in racing, which makes perfect sense to me, especially with him being born in a town called Mustang, and his love of sport cars, adventure, and basically anything that challenges him. In 2022, Jordan would make the trip to Poland in hopes of helping with providing relief for the people of Ukraine amid the ongoing war. He documented his and his friends' efforts on Facebook and his Instagram page. During his time there, he helped evacuate people from dangerous zones as well as provide food and water for people in need.
We're at the Herbene border crossing. That's Ukraine right there. We're in Poland right now. And we didn't know exactly what we'd be doing, but once we got here, we got put right to work. And it is super, super vital that we get as many supplies across this border as we can into the hands of the soldiers that are kicking ass, and also get as many innocent civilians out as we can. So we've set up a Fundly account to supply warm clothing, heaters, tents, heated blankets, anything that these people can get to stay warm, because there are thousands of people who are literally on foot coming across. They're being brought by bus to the border, then they still have to make the next 4-hour journey across by foot. It's freezing. There's strollers being left.
Perhaps one of Jordan's most impressive accomplishments during his appearance on reality TV is his ability to challenge people's expectations of him and in turn the community he represents. Despite being born different than most people around him and especially his castmates on the challenge, Jordan continued to surpass expectations and proved that people born with or who develop disability, for lack of a better word, are just as fierce, competitive, and unstoppable as anyone else. And this becomes extremely clear when you examine Jordan's stats on the challenge. Out of the 7 seasons he did, Jordan managed to reach the final on 5 seasons, won 3 of them back-to-back, as well as the spin-off show World Championship, and walked away with an outstanding amount of money, literally over $1 million. At his worst, Jordan can be pretty horrible, but watching him grow up on the challenge, I can't help but root for him and what he represents.
So growing up, I never wanted to call it that because I was always made fun of for my hand in school. So I would try and just call it a hand and ignore it. And I grew up my whole life like that. And now I see, and since being on the real world and the challenge and exposed to a platform, really, right? You know, television is a platform, social media now is a platform. Referring to it as a disability it reaches out there more. So in that regard, I've had to learn to claim it, you know, and not just write it off, because I've went my whole life trying to get everyone else to ignore it, that I tried to ignore it as well. And in the past few years, it's become more and more obvious that I should just own it, and more people would benefit from that. And so that's what I'm trying to do now. And yeah, just claim, yeah, I guess it is a disability. I was just born like this.
Hope that my legacy is one that is tenacious, and I want to be known as the guy who every time I stepped into the sand, every single eye was looking down there because you couldn't wait to see it. Win or lose, we're going to put on a show.